A horrific tragedy that spans two Missouri counties has a mom facing murder charges accused of killing her own young children. She turned herself into investigators this week, allegedly confessing to shooting her daughter and drowning her son. We're getting more details from Sheriff Dave Marshak. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. I'm going to tell you right now, right off the bat, that this is another tough story to get through. A 36-year-old woman turned herself into the Jefferson County authorities out in Missouri on Tuesday. That's the allegation. And this is after an alleged murder spree. And who did she reportedly kill? Well, Ashley Parmeley apparently went to the Festus Police Department and told the officers there that she'd shot her daughter, identified as 9-year-old Scarlet Parmeley, and said the little girl was outside in her car. Officers rushed out to try to save her, but it was too late. According to court documents, she was in the trunk of the SUV. But it doesn't end there. No, because Parmeley also told officers that her son, 2-year-old Isaac, was also dead at another location. According to the probable cause statement, his body was found in the pool of a fountain at a resort. Authorities believe that this mother drowned her son. Parmeley now faces first-degree murder and armed criminal action charges in 2 different counties because of where each child died. And with respect to Isaac specifically, the charge was upgraded from second-degree murder to first. To talk more about this, I want to bring in a special guest. I'm joined right now by the Sheriff of Jefferson County, Dave Marshak, to talk more about this. Sheriff, first of all, thank you so much for coming here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for the work that you do, particularly with this kind of case. I know this can't be easy. It is unthinkable to kind of process what we're talking about here. What is your initial impressions of this case? And then we'll get into more specifics.
Well, obviously, how the case unfolded was disturbing from the onset. I think for the officers who continued to investigate, they continue to be surprised at some of the evil that they're witnessing. And of course, our seasoned investigators, they deal with a lot of violence, but at the same time, this was particularly disturbing for our people and continues. They're very passionate about this investigation and getting to the bottom of it.
Can you talk to us about how she showed up to the station and what she said?
Well, when she arrived Tuesday morning, she parked in the parking lot in her vehicle, casually walked in and approached the clerk. She was a little disheveled and some of her clothes were wet, but other than that, according to the video, when you look at it, just like a normal person walking into a business.
And what did she say?
Well, she approached the clerk first and shared that she had killed her 2 children. The clerk immediately ran back to where a detective and another police supervisor were sitting and told them, that this person just walked into the lobby and claimed this. Now, from law enforcement circles, I don't want to say it's not uncommon, but, because we deal with so many people with mental health issues, it's not extremely out of the ordinary to have somebody come into your law enforcement lobby who has a mental health issue or mental health crisis. So I think there was probably some disbelief and questioning at first, but the officers, multiple officers, quickly exited, including a detective, and ran out there to talk to her and interview her to see what was going on.
Did she give any indication about why she did this?
No, and it's too early to talk about some of those things. Everybody always wants to know the motive. How could this be? Why would this person do these things? And we're careful not to speculate on that. And of course, we don't want to disrupt anything that the prosecutor may want to use later. And so we're cautious about that. I will share with you that during the course of that interview, and with multiple officers, she did share that the daughter that she had shot was in the vehicle. And so one of the officers ran out to the vehicle to investigate, look in the vehicle, and saw the small child that had been shot, immediately unlocked the doors and was able to remove the child, into the parking lot. and then start CPR, while the other officer, who happened to be a detective, started, making inquiries in terms of where the other child was, and that's how other law enforcement agencies, including ours, receive the information to immediately and urgently respond to that location to start investigating.
This is not an easy story to cover. No, it is absolutely horrifying. But given that, I have to tell you, this is an important story to tell. And one of the reasons that we're able to bring you these stories and produce these shows for you is because we get incredible support from our partners. And I just want to highlight one in particular, one of our sponsors, Morgan & Morgan. We talk about them a lot. This is a firm that you would want in your corner because they are specialists in the personal injury space. Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm, and for a reason. They win a lot. They have secured multi-million-dollar verdicts and settlements. In fact, they secured a $120 million verdict in one of the first personal injury trials post-pandemic. And by the way, in that case, there was a pretrial offer of just $20,000. Yeah, so Morgan & Morgan, they don't settle for lowball offers. They fight to protect your legal rights and for what you deserve in compensation. But one of the best things about Morgan & Morgan is how easy they make this whole process for their clients. From starting your claim to uploading documents to signing contracts to talking to your whole legal team, it can all be done from your smartphone. That's it. Seeing if you have a case only takes a few minutes. Oh, and by the way, no upfront fee. No, you only pay them if you win. So if you're injured, you could start your claim really easily. 8 clicks or less. You don't even have to leave your couch. Just go to forthepeople.com/LC sidebar or by dialing pound law. That's pound 529 on your phone. Do you have any idea about when the children were killed or what succession? Was it who was shot? Who was, was it Isaac that was thrown in the fountain first? Was it Scarlet who was shot second? Do you know how long before that gunshot happened?
So
if you could walk us through that.
Yeah, so part of the investigative process, as you can imagine, with technology today, is our investigators continue to comb through an unbelievable amount of data, including everything from Ring doorbell cameras, surveillance systems on businesses. One of the standards for law enforcement is some location services and using Google Maps and try to work backwards on a timeline. From what we have right now, and we do have some evidence that really kind of pinpoints it, a little after 9:15 in the morning is when the incident happens in St. Francis County, where we believe the 9-year-old daughter was shot. And we also have evidence to suggest that the boy was with him at the time. She arrived at the Festus police station a little over an hour later, but we also have evidence to put her in the area of Festus around 9:45 in the morning.
Do we know why Isaac was in that fountain of that resort? Was there any connection between this mother and that resort?
Again, the investigation is ongoing, and I think more pieces will fall into place later. I try not to talk about evidence necessarily,
Sure.
and of course, for the prosecution. But at the same time, there are some knowns because of the probable cause statements and the affidavits that have been completed by law enforcement. She is familiar with the area. She grew up in the area. She might have had some different residences, but I think there's, I don't know that there's any specific reason she was at that particular resort, other than, there is from the incident where the original incident happened to the Festus police station, it's about halfway.
And what about her? Do we know about her a criminal record, her past, her history, anything like that?
There's no major law enforcement indicators per se. The past has been some minor violations, but nothing significant that would have alerted law enforcement as to a potential problem.
Yeah, our understanding is, according to a probable cause statement, she pulled off the road near a lake or pond where she allegedly shot her daughter. There was video footage that showed a vehicle near that scene, and witnesses had reported hearing gunshots from the location. Have you had, again, I know there's only so much you can talk about. I guess the question that people might be wondering, and if you could help clarify, at this point, are you confident, if you can tell us, was this an isolated crime? And was she working by herself, or was there anybody else that might have been a part of this? Is there anybody else does the community have to be concerned at this point?
No, absolutely not. Look, Jefferson County is a safe community. It's a bedroom community to St. Louis. As a matter of fact, in 2023, our homicide rate was the lowest per capita in the entire St. Louis region. And so particularly when you travel south into the end of our county, it tends to be more rural, even though it's considered the suburbs. And so we continue to have a safe community. This is what I would classify as a isolated incident. For whatever reason, the victims were specifically targeted, for lack of better terms. And we don't see this as being a danger to the rest of the community. In terms of the investigation, we're working backwards to get an accurate timeline. And that timeline will also dictate and let us know who she was with, who she was visiting, with the hours and days preceding this. So those interviews will be conducted to shed some light in terms of the things that were preceding this event.
And obviously, there's only, I know you can't reveal what the conversations were, but just to confirm, was she interviewed by law enforcement, and was she open with law enforcement, or did she, if you can tell us, decide to request a lawyer and she didn't really say anything? If there's anything you could tell us, has she spoken to law enforcement about what happened here?
She's been interviewed by law enforcement, and prior to Miranda, she made several statements, right, including the one in which she reported that she had killed her two children. So, I don't know, based on the information that I have now, that there'll be any other interviews. Right. I feel like the investigative process will play out from here with external interviews and the data collection of evidence to put things together.
I wanted to ask your perspective on something else, and I'll give everybody a little bit of background here. So Scarlet, let's talk about these kids for a second. So Scarlet was due to start fourth grade in August. Her third grade teacher, Abby Tinnen, posted what is a heartbreaking message about the little girl's death on Facebook, including photos of her with the 9-year-old girl. She wrote, quote, "Scarlet was a kind, bubbly, caring, and spunky little girl. She was always the first to join me in classroom karaoke. We had the best time laughing, singing, dancing around the room. She loved telling and writing stories. She loved playing softball and talking about her little brother. She could carry on a conversation with just about anyone. At the end of the year, the award I chose for her was the Squirrel Award because of her ability to gather people up who needed a friend and make them feel included." And according to Tinnen's post, Scarlet had recently been baptized and was excited to share the news with her teacher and friends at school. And as for Isaac, Scarlet's half-brother, who again was just 2 years old, his father wrote on Facebook, "My whole heart was ripped out. Where do I find the pieces to put myself back together when the most precious part of me was taken?" The Missouri State Highway Patrol dive team came in to help find the little boy's body. I can't imagine, Sheriff, something like that, law enforcement rallying together to try to find Isaac, but also the community and what effect this has.
Yeah, and just for a point of clarification, the 2-year-old child was quickly recovered on scene by a sheriff's deputy who immediately started life-saving measures from that fountain that you mentioned. We did ask the assistance of the Missouri State Highway Patrol dive team to potentially locate any evidence near the shooting where it occurred in St. Francis County. So just a point of clarification there.
Yep.
In terms of the impact to this community, she was known in the community. Last night there was a candlelight vigil. She was expected to be playing softball over at some community fields, and hundreds of people turned out to mourn and hopefully start the recovery process. I don't have any recommendations on what it takes for a community to recover from something like this, but it has impacted our community and certainly those families, and what a devastating tragedy that's happened.
Yeah, and separate GoFundMe pages have already raised several $1,000s to help go towards funeral expenses and anything else the family might need. Parmeley remains locked up in the Jefferson County Jail without bond. I mentioned before with respect to Isaac, her charge was upgraded from second-degree murder to first-degree murder. Can you tell us why?
Well, in the state of Missouri, the way the statute reads between second and first is, and some of your listeners may coordinate or correlate a murder first degree charge in the state of Missouri to something like capital punishment. But in the state of Missouri, there has to be a time of reflection and cool calculation. And I think from the initial investigation to where we're at now, is we now have evidence to suggest that there was this time lapse between the time where these decisions were made, and so that was enough for the prosecutor to review and believe that they have the evidence to charge a murder first, which is a more serious charge than the murder second.
And my understanding, it's we're talking life in prison without the possibility of parole or even the death penalty, right? If she's convicted.
In the state of Missouri, we do have the death penalty. I don't know if this will meet the burden for that, and I'll leave that up to the prosecuting attorney. Sure. But look, I can share this with you. In Jefferson County, we're incredibly lucky to have a prosecuting attorney that is aggressive. And despite what you've heard about the St. Louis community and having a progressive prosecutor in the past, in Jefferson County, we're a law and order county, and our prosecutors are very aggressive. Because they want this community to be known as a law and order community. And I'm confident that we'll find resolution and success to start the justice process.
I appreciate you saying that, Sheriff, particularly in this case. I wanted to leave off just if you can tell us how the family is doing. And I mentioned, Isaac's father made a statement. Have you gotten any insight from the family members about this woman, about this situation? Anything you can share? And we of course understand if you can't, but just how's the family doing, and if they've given you any information?
Look, just the city of Festus, where this occurred, is a small community. It's less than 12,000. So a lot of people know each other. I will share with you, we've got probably 18 different detectives working on this case, who have coordinated and spoke with the family at different times based on what their particular investigative assignment is. I have not personally spoken with the family, and so I'm a little cautious about speculating what that looks like, but I can only imagine the devastation in this impact that is, it's unfortunate.
Yeah. Let me end with this. I'm just going to say, our hearts and our prayers go out to this family and the friends of these children, because it's a heartbreaking story to cover. But I want to thank you, Sheriff, and I want to thank your team and law enforcement for the work that you do each and every day, but particularly, as I said, with these kinds of cases, how difficult they are, and having to continue to investigate this and find out details what happened. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for coming on here on Sidebar. We really appreciate you giving us a little bit more context and perspective and details about what's happening here. But Sheriff Dave Marshak, thank you.
Thank you for having me, and I will leave you with this. This incident has brought light to the fact that our first responders continue to do amazing work every single day, and that goes from the dispatchers to the officers that provided CPR and tried life-saving measures to the medical examiner. These are difficult situations, and I would just ask for your listeners to take a moment to reflect on the job that they're doing and the difficult jobs they do every single day. And I would just ask that, and I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you for that, Sheriff. We appreciate it too, and we will make sure to keep them in our thoughts as well. Sheriff Dave Marshak,
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, everybody, that is all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.